So hello everyone, learning Python programming, questions and answers. So the question is, what is the urllib model and how it works in Python programming? So urllib library modules in Python is a standard library and they provide the several tools for working with the URL. And these uh, models are urllib request, urllib parse and urllib error. So urllib request models provide functions for sending the HTTP request like URL open, which is used to open the URL and retrieve their contents. The URL retrieve functions can be used to download files from the URL, and URL encode functions is used to encode a dictionary of the Q parameters into the URL encoded string. urllib parse models provide the functions for parsing the URL and manipulate the Q parameters in a URL. Functions like the URL split URL, unsplit URL, parse URL, unparse, and parse QS can be used to parse and modify the different component of the URL. Finally, urllib.error modules defines the exception classes raised by the functions in URL request and URL parse modules. And these exceptions are raised when there is an error in processing the request of the URL. So here in this program, we can say that Sniper, the URL request model, is used to send an HTTP request to the specific URL IIT-BHU.ac.in using the URL open function. The response object returns by the URL open is then read using the read methods and decode using the decode method to get the HTML contents of the web page. And finally, the HTML content is printed to the console using the print function in this program. So how to use the socket models in Python? So socket models in the Python provides a way to implement the low-level network programming and enable the communication of a network using the IP Internet protocols. Sockets are a common meaning of exchanging the data between the machines over a network. The sockets models in the Python can be used to create, manipulate, and destroy sockets for the purpose of sending and receiving data over the network. Socket models also provides a wide range of functions and methods for creating and manipulating the sockets. This includes the functions for creating clients and server sockets, function for sending and receiving the data, and the function for manipulating socket options. Socket models provides both the IPv4 and IPv6 protocols. They support both the IPv4 and IPv6 protocols, and which are most commonly used the protocol for communication over a network. This makes it suitable for implementing a wide range of the network application, from simple client server application to the complex network protocols. We can summarize as the socket models in the Python is a powerful tool for low-level programming, network programming that provides a flexibility and powerful way to implement the network application. It can be used for creating, manipulating, and destroy the socket, sending, receiving data over the network, and implement a wide range of network applications. The question is how to use the threading model in Python programming. So the thread or threading model in the Python provides the support for working with the lightweight concurrent process or threads. Threads are separate flow of execution that runs concurrently with other threads within the same process, allow multiple tasks to run simultaneously and improve the performance. Thread models provide a number of functions and classes for creating and manipulating the threads, including a thread class, which is used to create a new thread of execution. So here in this program that is shown here, so the threading model is use two threads T1 and T2 thread, each of which execute a separate task using the task1 and task2. The thread class is used to create the threads and set their target to the corresponding target task functions. Once the threads are created, the start method is called on each thread to begin their execution. The join method is then called on each thread to wait for them to complete before continuous execution of the main thread. And finally, a message is printed to console indicates that the task has completed. So we can summarize as that the thread models in the Python is a powerful tool for working with the lightweight concurrent process, allows multiple tasks to sum simultaneously and improve the performance of the application. It provides a number of functions classes for creating and manipulating the threads, as well as the mechanism for synchronization access to share the resources and avoid rest conditions. The question is what are the differences between the multi processing and threading? So both the multiprocessing and threading models are used to achieve the concurrent and run multiple tasks concurrently. However, they have the difference the way they achieve the concurrency and the manage resources. So multiprocessing use separate processors to run the task with each process have its own memory space. This means that if one processor crashes, it would not affect the other processor. However, if two processes need to share the data, they need to use the inter-process communication method like pipes, queue, shared memories, and other things. Multiprocessing in Python programming is useful for CPU uh, bound tasks and parallel processing where the multiple processor can work together to solve a problem more quickly. Threading, on the other hand, used separate threads within the same process to run the task. These threads share the same memory space, making it easier to share data between them. However, if one thread crashes, it can task down the whole processor. Threading is useful for input-output bound tasks where waiting for the data to be loaded or saving to the limited factors. Is multiple threads can work together to keep the CPU busy while waiting for the input-output operations to complete. So we can summarize as the multiprocessing is useful for CPU bound tasks that can be parallel across the multiple process, while the threading is useful for input output bound tasks that can be benefit for concurrent within a single process. However, both models have their own advantages and the limitations, and choose between them depends on the specific requirement of the task at the end. The question is how to use the subprocess model in Python programming. The subprocess model in the Python is used to swap the new process and run external commands or application in a separate process from the main program. This can be useful for executing the commands that require a separate process, such as running shell commands, calling external scripts, or launching other applications. These subprocess models provide the several functions for running and controlling the external commands, and these external commands are such as subprocess.runs, and this function runs a command in a new process and wait for it to the complete return the complete process object with information about the command output and the return output. Subprocess popen, this function create a new process object and return the popen object, which can be used to interact with the new process input output and error. Subprocess calls functions, runs a command and wait for it completes, returns the command return object. Subprocess check call returns this function runs a command and wait for it complete, raises an exception if the command returns a non-zero return code. Subprocess checkout, this function runs a command and returns its output as a binary string, as a bytes string, raises an expression if the command returns a non-zero return object. And these functions can be used to run command and script in a variant of the contents, including the running shell commands, execution, uh, external programs, and even interact with the web server services or APIs. We can conclude that the subprocess model in the Python provide a simple and flexible way to run the control external commands and application, allow you to swap new process and connect to their input output stream from within the Python code. The question is how to use the shuttle model in Python. So shutil model in the Python provides a set of the high-level file operations that simplify the working with the file and the directories. Here the some functions that covers in these models are shutil copy source destination. This function copy the files at the source path to the destination. Shutil copy to source destination is similar as the earlier one, the shutil copy source and destination, but it also attempt to prevent the file metadata such as the modification time, access time, and flow. So they preserve all these information in this copy to. Shuttle copy tree source destination. This function copy an entire directory tree routes at the source to the destination. It creates the destination directory if it does not exist, and recurring copy all the files and the subdirectories under the source directory. Shuttle move source and destination function moves the file or the directory at source to the destination. If destination is an existing directory, source is moved into it. Otherwise, destination is treated as the new name of the file or the directory. Certain RM tree path, this function removes the entire directory tree rooted at the path, including its all subdirectories and the file. So, in this example code, using the subtle code functions to copy a file from one location to the another location. So, here in this example, the open function is used to create a new file called the source file.txt, and some text is written on it. Then the subtle copy function is used to copy the file to a new location called it the destination file.txt. Finally, the content of the copy file are printed using the open and read function. What is the use of the glob model in Python programming? So the glob model in the Python programming is used to find all the parameters that matches a specific pattern according to the rules used in the Unix shell. It provides a powerful way to search for files and dictionaries using the wildcard characters. The glob function takes a pattern as the input and return a list of the file names that matches to the pattern. The pattern can indicate wildcard characters such as asterisk to match any string to the character, question mark to match any character, and brackets to match any character in a set. So here in the example code, they demonstrate how to use the glob function to find all the text file .txt file in the current directory. So in this example, glob function is called with a pattern star.txt which matches all the files in the current directory that have the .txt extension. The function returns a list of the file names that matches the pattern, which is then printed in the console. Here important thing is that glob function can also be used to search the file in subdirectory by including the directory path in the pattern, such as path hyphen to hyphen files and so. What is the argument pass model in Python programming? So, argparse argument pass model in the Python standard library, they provide a simple and flexible way to parse the command line arguments. It allows the developers to uh, easier define and document their command line interference and also generate the user messages and error messages for the user. The all-pass model works by defining a set of argument and options that the program accepts, and then pass the argument pass on the command line according to those definitions. It also provides a way to automatically generate users messages that describe the syntax of the program command line interference, as well as the error message when invalid argument are provided. So here in the example code, the argument parse model is used to define the two command line argument input and output, which corresponding to input output files. The parser argument method is used to parse the command line argument provided to the script, and the resulting argument are then accessed via the argument object. How to use the getopt models in Python programming? So the getopt model in Python programming is used to pass the command line argument, and it provides a convenient way to handle the command line argument in a structured way, making it easier to process them in a scripting and program. The getopt modules provide two functions to the parse command line argument. One is the getopt and other one is the getopt log. So the getopt argument. This function passes the command line argument, passes in an argument using the option and long option list to specify the valid argument and argument data program accepted. And getopt long is similar to the getopt but allow for the longer, more description option name as well as the short option name. So both functions return two values. The first is the list of the option values pairs and the second is the list of the remaining argument that were not passed on option. What is the use of a unit test model in Python programming? So the unit test model is an inbuilt Python model that provides the framework for writing and running the unit test for the code. Unit test is the method of testing the individual piece of the code, such as the function or the methods, in isolate for in isolate from the rest of the program to ensure that they are working and execute. So in the given code, the add function takes two arguments and return their sum. The test addition class is a subclass of the test class test case and contains a single test method called the test add. And this test method is used to uh, assert equal methods to verify that the output of the add function is equal to the expected results or not. So if the name equals to main, a statement at the end of the code block is used to execute the unit test. uh, when the file is executed directly, the unit test main methods runs all the test methods in the test addition class and report to the result.